Hey, Ben Pyle, we're going to have a pile on. How are you, son?
Well, thanks for having me on.
I'm obviously a complete Neanderthal. I apologise for my complete inability to understand the importance, but here's what I don't get, and you're going to put me right. Starmer and that ridiculous human being can't eat a sandwich. They're off to Baku, pushing, you know, it's really important, COP29 and net zero, and it's been snubbed by other world leaders. Nobody's really interested. Miliband's promising this, and we're going to have cheap energy and great British... no bills have gone down. And yet what I don't understand, and all the environmentalists will now want to kill me probably, we have, as Donald Trump says, we have all this stuff underneath the ground that we could drill or frack or whatever, but we seem to forget that because it's not healthy and we're going to buy it or do it some other way, and then we're going to run out and we're going to be screwed and everybody's bills are going to go up. What is the goddamn point, please?
Well, I mean, actually, quite frankly, your guess is as good as mine. Our political establishment seems to have been colonised by green ideologues, and they have for a very long time, maybe half a century or so, they've been wheeling their way in, getting their way into footholds into the British establishment, and bit by bit they've decided we don't need wealth, we don't need energy, and we don't need better standards of living. Everything is fine, and they've grown in influence, probably as the electorate, as the voter, has declined in influence, and they're obviously related things. So the green agenda, I mean, is a sort of ideological impulse. It's hidden behind a lot of science, or so-called science, but this is really a fig leaf. When we look at climate change, we look at climate science, we can see perhaps there's some evidence of global warming. For sure, temperatures have gone up slightly, but most of the policies that we hear, argued for on the basis that there's going to be a climate emergency, or there is a climate emergency for which there is zero evidence. I mean, I don't just mean actually zero, I mean less than zero evidence. All the evidence points to the fact that the human race, human society is flourishing, notwithstanding our own difficulties, that is, of course. People are living longer, healthier, safer, wealthier lives. There's more food security. Hunger has been all but abolished, certainly in the Western world, whereas that was a routine part of people's existence up until maybe my grandparents' or parents' generation. So the idea that we're facing a more uncertain future or a more perilous future is completely bonkers. It's an ideological fantasy, an aberration.
But what I don't understand about this ideology, and unless I'm missing the point, because presumably when you run a country, you have to look at what comes in, what goes out, and try and balance the books. If you've got, I mean, you know, wind power falls to potentially zero, as Miliband, we all know, prepares to sort of cut reliance on gas. He talks about lower prices. That's BS. He talks about no job losses. That's absolute rubbish as well. We know in Aberdeen and the areas of oil and gas there's going to be huge jobs lost. We don't even know what great British energy is. This ideology, I mean, I don't know if you saw this ridiculous thing from Miliband. We said, I'm off to Baku and I'm going to convince the world, and that's what you want me to do. I bring it back, I'm afraid, Ben, and I said it just now. I'd love your take on this. You don't have to support Donald Trump, but here's a man who says, I'm going to drill, baby, because I've got gas and I've got oil and it's ours and I'm going to make money from it and people are going to benefit from it. What is wrong with doing the right... Why do these people think, all these ideological idiots, as I call them, why do they think that we're going to fall for this? Because I think if we learned anything a week ago in America, it's that the people, when they vote, are going to start voting and showing these people that it's the everyday things that matter, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Cost of your mortgage, cost of petrol, getting old people heating, getting veterans. I mean, I go on about it the whole time, Ben, but isn't that more important right now? But they say to me, they look down their noses at me and they go, you don't know what you're talking about. If we don't sort out this, the whole world's going to explode.
Well, you think so, and you'd hope so, that's what governments would want to do. But Ed Miliband seems to be sort of presenting himself as something of a TikTok star, producing all these rather ridiculous sort of two-camera pieces which show no depth. I think one of the problems is as well, I mean, we've talked about ideology. The other half of this story is, of course, one that people have often suggested we do, which is follow the money. Part of that change that we've seen in British politics over the last 20 years is now politicians like Ed Miliband are completely surrounded, not by members of the public, like as they used to be, especially from the Labour movement, the Labour party, you know, seemingly established to represent the working classes, in fact has been surrounded by what we call green blob organizations. Yep. These are sort of so-called civil society organizations, think tanks, and they're very much sort of about promoting the ideological view of things and the way to make the world a better place, the way to protect people's interests is to reduce CO2 emissions. And I really don't think the Labour Party, and they're the epitome of it, they're worse for it than perhaps any government we've ever had, has any connection to the wider public at large whatsoever. It's a catastrophic and historic separation. So I don't think they can listen. And if any noises do get through to them, where people say we're suffering from, you know, rising costs of living and so on and so forth, then they say, oh, don't worry, if we build more wind turbines, then prices will go down, your bills will go down. And then when we point out that you've been trying this for 20 years, and in that 20 years, energy prices have tripled, they say that their only answer is to say, well, we haven't tried hard enough.
Listen, I could talk to you, Ben, all afternoon because you speak sense. You are, don't go, just the co-founder of Climate Debate UK. What I totally agree with you is there's going to come a point in this country, and you should talk about it, we should all talk about it, where people do not want to be told what they should think. They're going to be saying to the elected politicians, this is what matters to us, mate. So stop talking about what you think we care about, and we'll tell you what actually matters. Ben Parr, thank you so much indeed.